We begin with breaking news from Minneapolis, where rioting is intensifying over the death of George Floyd. Tonight, the governor has called in the National Guard to help to try to calm the situation. Also today, the Minneapolis police chief apologized and called for calm.
You know, police have released heavily redacted body camera video of this incident that caused such a national outcry. It does not show the moment when the officer kneeled on Floyd's head or when Floyd said he could not breathe. The video actually cuts to when he went to the ambulance and the ambulance drove away. Mayor Jacob Fry there today called the protest the result of so much built-up anger and sadness ingrained in the black community for the past 400 years. Police Chief Medaria Arredondo in that area is asking to restore peace in his community.
Setting buildings and structures on fire, which are harming the safety of our elderly and our youth, I cannot allow that as chief. And so I know that there is currently a deficit of hope in our city. And as I wear this uniform before you, I know that this department has contributed to that deficit of hope.
A memorial at the site where it happened is growing today. We understand all 4 officers involved have been fired, while now there's a national outcry that they be charged.
Well, that's right. No denying that a lot of people are really hurting financially right now as we begin to emerge from the COVID-19 shutdown. But is this a case of history repeating itself? Are we headed for another Great Depression? Well, I talked with a couple of local experts, and they say not going to happen. On the surface, the parallels might seem obvious. Soup lines during the Great Depression, today lines of cars waiting at a food bank. The unemployment rate in 1929, 3.2%, soaring to 25% by 1933. Today, just 3.6% in January, exploding to nearly 15% in April and climbing. But financial expert Mike Pequeen and historian Mark Hall Patton say that's where the similarities end.
It's really very difficult to find a lot of similarities.
There are some very important differences that show us why this is not like the Great Depression.
First, he says our economy today is much more diversified than during the Great Depression, when it was mainly agriculture.
Areas, farming areas, we had gone into a depression right at the end of World War I. If you were in the Dust Bowl areas, you were losing everything.
Second, the government's response is completely different.
The Great Depression, they increased interest rates, which was disastrous. They did not spread money around like they're doing here. They did not have the same kind of unemployment benefits, the same kind of FDIC insurance did not exist.
And contrary to what you might think, the Hoover Dam under construction during the Depression era was not a stimulus project. Still,
it was huge for Southern Nevada. It's what got us through the Great Depression here. But it had nothing to do with trying to stimulate the economy. It had everything to do with trying to control the Colorado River.
Also, duration.
This is a relatively short phenomenon. Whether or not we all agree on how or when, the economy will gradually reopen and we will grind this to a new level in the coming months.
Hotels and casinos across the valley are gearing up to reopen. Westgate Las Vegas let us in for a look at what guests will see when they're welcomed back inside. Social distancing between slot machines, temperature checks, and limited seating at gaming tables. These are a few of the safety requirements patrons will notice when Westgate Las Vegas opens its doors.
Our branding statement here has been Legendary Vegas Fun, and now we're shifting to Legendary Vegas Safe Fun.
Vice President of Public Relations Gordon Prouty says they're also looking into installing plexiglass between machines. He says what's key to a successful reopen is making everyone feel safe.
The safety of our team members and our guests has always been a top priority here.
What about masks? Prouty says they won't be mandatory, but
we're going to be encouraging them to do that. We'll also have masks available for anyone that does not have one and would like one.
Several hotels and casinos on the Strip are slated to open next Thursday with similar safety protocols. The D Las Vegas owner Derek Stevens is enticing tourists to come back by offering free airline tickets.
We purchased 1,000 flights from various airlines, And we did it from, cities around the country, really just to welcome people back.
Westgate plans to open on June 18th, and Prouty says reservations are filling up quickly.
We've seen a spike in reservations, but we're really seeing a bigger jump on 4th of July weekend.
Stevens and Prouty can't wait to see their casinos filled with life again.
We're excited to welcome everybody back to the properties, and we want to make sure that they leave here with that experience, that they had a great time and they felt safe.
In Las Vegas, Kyle Wilcox, News 3.
Kendall, so the nurses we're talking about, they are with the National Nurses United Union, and they held a protest this morning, like you were saying. They're calling out the hospital for what they are calling widespread layouts and economic cuts. Now take a look at some of the footage we rolled on early this morning. The protest kicked off at 8 a.m. It was actually one of many protests across the country, actually 15 HCA hospitals and 6 states, nurses there participated. Now, nurses here at Mountain View Hospital are claiming there is inadequate personal protective equipment and are accusing the hospital for planning an undetermined number of layoffs, wage freezes, and other cuts caused by the pandemic. And this morning, we heard from both nurses and a representative from HCA addressing some of their concerns. Take a listen.
That we have entire designated coronavirus units. The nurses do not have N95 masks. We haven't asked for any kind of hazard pay. We haven't asked for any kind of compensation, any kind of anything, except for staff, except for protective equipment, except for testing of employees.
If anyone is symptomatic, they get tested through employee health. The emergency room, as a company, really went above and beyond to try to avoid any furloughs or layoffs. To the best of my knowledge, we're the only organization that offered pandemic pay. By avoiding furloughs and layoffs entirely across 180 plus hospitals, I think we've demonstrated that we're committed to our people and their families.